I am Police Chief Katrina Thompson, and on behalf of the women and men of the Winston-Salem Police Department, I want to thank you for attending the October 2018 Public Safety News Conference. First, please join me in honoring our fallen officer for the month of October who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Sergeant Mickey Gray Hutchins, end of watch, Monday, October 12, 2009. Sergeant Mickey Hutchins succumbed to gunshot wounds sustained 5 days earlier after responding to a backup another officer at a domestic disturbance call. A man had gone to a local fast food restaurant on Peters Creek Parkway to confront his ex-wife. When officers arrived on the scene, they encountered the male subject behind the restaurant. The subject, who was wanted on several warrants, fled on foot. Both officers pursued the man behind several businesses. A struggle ensued during which the suspect pulled out a handgun and opened fire, striking both officers. Despite being wounded, the other officer was able to return fire and killed the suspect. Sergeant Hutchins was transported to a local hospital where he remained until succumbing to his wounds 5 days later. Sergeant Hutchins had served with the Winston-Salem Police Department for 27 years. He is survived by his wife and 2 daughters. On November 6, 2011, the bridge over the Yadkin River on US 421 was dedicated to Sergeant Hutchins. The bridge links Yadkin and Forsyth counties, the towns where he lived and the city where he worked in. It would have been his 53rd birthday. Now, please join me in a moment of silence to honor Sergeant Hutchins, as well as all the women and men across our country who paid the ultimate sacrifice, and also in remembrance of those recently in in Florence, South Carolina. Thank you. I'd like to thank the women and men of the Winston-Salem Police Department for putting their lives on the line every day and for the great work that they do protecting and serving the citizens of Winston-Salem. Your work is not unnoticed. Before I move forward with upcoming events and the remainder of the scheduled topics for today, I'd like to pause for a moment to discuss an incident that occurred between a school resource officer here in Winston-Salem at Haynes Magnet School. On Friday, October 5th, 2018, school resource officer T.B. McCormick was on duty at Haynes Magnet School. Shortly before 10 a.m., Officer McCormick was contacted by a school staff member who reported an incident of disorderly conduct. Officer McCormick subsequently commenced a disorderly conduct by fighting investigation, which remains ongoing at this time. Officer McCormick was equipped with a body-worn camera that was utilized to capture the investigative actions taken by the officer on the date in question. Recent social media posts have resulted in media inquiries seeking additional information regarding the incident and investigation. The release of additional information in this matter, beyond the information included in this public record release, is prohibited by North Carolina General Statute 7B-3000, which prohibits the release of juvenile justice records. Officer T.B. McCormick was employed by the Winston-Salem Police Department on January 17, 2012. He joined the Educational Services Unit School Resource Officer Program in February of 2016. He's currently assigned to the Investigative Services Bureau, He is not currently functioning as an SRO in any school pending the investigation of this incident. Officer McCormick has had no disciplinary action during his career with the Winston-Salem Police Department. Officer McCormick has had no allegations of excessive force during his career with the Winston-Salem Police Department. The Winston-Salem Police Department has a robust selection process for the School Resource Officers Program. It's an extremely difficult job, and we select personnel based on a variety of factors, including a review of their career use of force actions. Officer McCormick joined the SRO unit in February 2016 after demonstrating that he had held the correct temperament for selection as a school resource officer. Officer McCormick is a certified crisis intervention team officer, meaning he has had specialized training in de-escalation skills. Officer McCormick has been trained in both bias-based policing and implicit bias, meaning he has been trained to recognize bias and not allow bias to affect his policing tactics. I am comfortable that his selection as a school resource officer was appropriate at the time of his selection, and that his assignment to Haynes Magnet School was also appropriate. The Winston-Salem Police Department is conducting a thorough administrative investigation of this incident. We encourage the family of the student to allow the interview of their child, their student, so that we can have her direct perception of how the interview unfolded. Before we move on, I will say again, I am limited in the information that I can review or can discuss as we're talking about a juvenile, but I will be willing to take questions and answer those that I am able to answer. No questions regarding that incident, then we will move on with the remainder of the program. Some updates and upcoming events. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Winston-Salem Police Department, Winston-Salem Fire Department, and the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Emergency Management Trunk or Treat event will be held Saturday, October 27th from 5:30 p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. at the BB&T Ballpark, the Dash Stadium. The Winston-Salem Police Foundation Movie Night will be Saturday, October 28th at BB&T Ballpark, the Dash Stadium. Gates open at 5:30 p.m. The movie begins at 6:30 p.m. Next upcoming from the Winston-Salem Police Department will be Lieutenant Eric Montgomery, who will discuss domestic violence awareness. He will be followed by retired Winston-Salem Police Department Lieutenant Elwood Craven, who will discuss Crime Stoppers updates, followed by Officer Mark Van Buren, who will discuss our first ever 2018 No Shave November fundraiser, and then Sergeant Stan Karbowski and Frank Thomas to talk about the Big Four Alumni Association program for the Winston-Salem Police Department. We will then go to Forsyth County Emergency Management and the Winston-Salem Fire Department. Lieutenant Montgomery.
Good morning. I'm Winston-Salem Police Lieutenant Eric Montgomery. And as Chief Thompson said, the month of October is recognized nationally as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. As such, the Winston-Salem Police Department works diligently to ensure that we create as much awareness about domestic violence as possible during the month of October and throughout the year. The Winston-Salem Police Department and Family Services of Forsyth County co-sponsored a Day of Unity on October 5th at Family Services, which is at 1200 South Broad Street. Mayor Joines was present, and he made a proclamation announcing Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We display our silent witness silhouettes sponsored by various community groups in various locations and events throughout the month of October throughout the city. During the entire month of October, our marked police vehicles will display a purple ribbon magnet on the vehicle. We're currently displaying banners announcing Domestic Violence Awareness Month on the bridge on University Parkway near Northwest Boulevard, just beyond the Bojangles restaurant. The Winston-Salem Police Department has a newly wrapped police vehicle with the theme Drive Out Domestic Violence. It's parked in front of the Public Safety Center today. And our domestic violence themed vehicle will be on display at several locations and events throughout the month of October. I ask if you see our domestic violence themed vehicle, if you would take a picture with it and tag us on Twitter at City of Winston-Salem Police. And so I'd next like to invite Sergeant Allen, if he would, to inform us of some of the services that we offer for our victims of domestic violence.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Allen, and I'm a supervisor in the Criminal Investigations Division, and as such, I'm the supervisor over the Victims Assistance Unit. This morning, I'd like to explain to you what the Victims Assistance Unit is, as it represents the Winston-Salem Police Department and the services that we offer for the citizens of Winston-Salem. The Victims Assistance Unit supports victims, referrals to other community agencies, and we offer free counseling to those who've experienced trauma of victimization. The families that have experienced a violent death or homicide, we reach out to those families and victims. Contact is made with individuals age 55 or older, regardless of the crime, either by phone or with a letter. The Victims Assistance Unit provides support to victims of domestic violence, sexual assaults, including victims of other crimes, as I stated earlier, age 55 or older. The victims who have been a victim of a serious crime, the victim of a domestic violence crime or a sexual assault are provided up to 3 free counseling sessions through a licensed counselor, as well as being provided information on services on the following. We'll explain to them the 50B and 50C process, the criteria for a 50B process, the workplace violence prevention program. We will help them with court advocacy and attend court to and from, provide transportation if necessary, safety planning, referrals to shelters and services with other community resources, crime victim compensation through the state of North Carolina for victims of crimes or victims of homicides, North Carolina SAVEN, which is the statewide automated victims assistance notification system, VineLink, and Safe on 7. What I'd like to talk to you about next are some of the statistics that face the victims of domestic violence. And as you'll see with some of our banners that we've got this year that will be around at different functions throughout the city, domestic violence affects children nationally. Between 3 to 10 million children witness domestic violence annually. It's also stated that children who witness abuse or are abused are at a higher risk for health problems as an adult, which can include mental health conditions, depression and anxiety, low self-esteem, and other underlying problems. Children who witness abuse between parents are also at a greater risk for repeating the cycle as adults, with females entering into abusive relationships and males becoming abusers themselves. Studies have also found that abusers who abuse children or intimate partners are also known to abuse the family pet. Many victims will remain in the relationship for fear that the abuser will harm or kill their companion pet. There is a program that we offer through Family Services called the Safe Haven Program, which will help to alleviate the fear for victims who have a pet. These are some of our previous wrapped vehicles. In 2015 up until 2017, we have the vehicle on the left. In 2017, we had the wrapped vehicle on the right. And out front, as Lieutenant Montgomery explained, we have the brand-new wrapped vehicle for 2018, which will run through 2018 and 2019. Our silent witnesses, those started in October of 2015 with the Winston-Salem Police Department unveiling 17 silent witnesses. The silhouettes are sponsored by various businesses and community groups, and annually the Winston-Salem Police Department silhouettes are displayed at various events and local businesses throughout the community. We just recently had the Day of Unity at Family Services, and throughout the month of October, there will be many events going on throughout the city. One of the other things that I'd like to highlight is Elijah's Helping Hands. They had a balloon release on October 5th as well. On October the 23rd, they're going to do a Dine for Domestic Violence. With part of the proceeds will go to domestic violence. On the 26th, they're going to do a Zumbathon. And on October 9th, they're going to do an Art and Wine fundraiser. More information can be found at elijahshelpinghands.org. Our community partners, Catholic Charities, Community Intervention and Educational Services, Crisis Control Ministry, Family Services, the Battered Women's Shelter, the Domestic Violence Crisis Line, Sexual Assault Crisis Line, Safe Haven Program, Next Step Ministries, Safe on 7, and the Parenting Path, aka Scan Exchange. Those numbers are also provided on the screen. And again, the goal for this month is to stop domestic violence, or as Lieutenant Montgomery said, our motto this month is to drive out domestic violence. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, how are you? My name's Elwood Craven. As Chief mentioned, I retired in 2016 and came back in January this year to help work with the Crime Stopper program on a part-time basis. Myself and 2 other retired officers are working on it now. I would like to thank Lieutenant David Rose for volunteering me to have the opportunity to come here and talk with you this morning about Crime Stoppers. No good deed goes unnoticed there, Lieutenant. Let's get on with it. Crime Stoppers, I'm sure most of you are aware, has been around for a long time. It's a unique program that brings together the business, law enforcement, and ordinary citizens to fight crime. Crime Stoppers use the local media, the internet to publicize unsolved crimes and solicit tips from citizens to identify criminals and to report on an anonymous basis observed illegal activity, including illegal drug activity. Crime Stoppers has been active in Winston-Salem since 1981 and has had a strong tradition in serving the community. This year alone, we have had over 400 tip referrals since January. We've had 55 persons identified and arrested. And the offenses would include murder, robbery, illegal drug distribution, assault, and larceny, among other things. There have been 140 felony charges and 147 misdemeanor charges related to these persons that have been arrested and charged. $244,301 of illegal drugs have been confiscated, $18,428 of property seized, and over $34,000 in rewards have been approved. And it's been a very successful year so far. Crime Stoppers offers rewards now up to $5,000 for the identification and information leading to an arrest and successful prosecution in criminal cases. Rewards are approved by a volunteer board of directors from this community who are assisted by trained coordinators with the police department. No tax dollars whatsoever are used to pay cash rewards. Local individuals and businesses participate in the program by making tax-deductible contributions to Crime Stoppers. You can go to our webpage, which is shown here, winston-salemcitygovernment.com, as part of the city webpage link, for further information about giving donations and about giving anonymous tips. Crime Stoppers is now on Facebook. We post surveillance pictures and information about recent crimes and persons that we are looking to identify in active investigations. Anyone who has information on the identity of these persons are directed to call Crime Stoppers at our numbers to provide assistance. Again, we offer cash rewards for identification and arrest of suspects. Rewards are based on the nature of the offense and how accurate and detailed the information is. We update this page usually on a weekly basis. The bottom line is that crime does not pay, but we do. You can reach us by telephone. Our number's been the same since 1981, 336-727-2800. There is a Spanish line of 336-728-3904, and we can be texted at BiteBack to 274-637 to send a text message. If you want to send an email anonymously, you can go to the winston-salemcrimestoppers.com, and there you will be directed to a separate link where you can leave an anonymous email with information about crime in our area. And that's all I have. Are there any questions? Very good, thank you. And next is who? Officer Van Buren. I think he's the main event. Come on up here, buddy.
Good morning. I'm Officer Van Buren of the Winston-Salem Police Department. I'm currently assigned to the Patrol Division. I'm here to talk to you guys today about the No Shave November campaign we'll be conducting in November and December. The No Shave November campaign was a nationwide campaign that was started to raise awareness about cancer through people growing facial hair to embrace hair loss that cancer patients go through. During the months of November and December, sworn and non-sworn employees will be invited to join us and not have to shave in the No Shave November campaign. Each participant will donate $50. Proceeds will be donated to the Winston-Salem Police Foundation and the Wake Forest Baptist Health Stick Center. The Winston-Salem Police Foundation was established to assist in providing funding for additional police training and to strengthen community collaborations. And there's also a list of other things that they provide on the screen. The Wake Forest Baptist Health Stick Center is an accredited institution that helps rehabilitate trauma patients, cancer patients, and Alzheimer's patients. The Stick Center was chosen due to the fact that many of our victims in the cities rehabilitate there. These victims range from our shooting victims, victims of house fires, and victims of serious motor vehicle wrecks. On a personal level, I was a patient at the Stick Center for nearly 3 weeks. While I was a patient there, I was inspired by their staff. Without their doctors, nurses, and physical therapies, I have no doubt that I would not be wearing my uniform in front of you today. From November 1st to December 31st, male employees will be allowed to grow beards. Those who participate will keep their beards neatly groomed in order to maintain a professional appearance. And female WSPD employees will be allowed to paint their fingernails any color of their choice. These are things that we normally don't get to do at the police department. If the public wishes to make a donation to the campaign, they can visit the Police Foundation's websites. I'm going to open it up for any questions now, if anybody has any questions they want to ask about the program. Sir? No.
My name is Sergeant Stan Karbowski. I'm with the Community Resources Unit of the Winston-Salem Police Department, and Mr. Frank Thomas from the Big Four Alumni Association. Sir, would you like to go ahead?
Yes. Chief Thompson, on behalf of the Big Four, we are so honored. Oh, okay. We are so honored that this is our community week, and we are so honored that we could present these bears for your violence program, which what we hope that it will be beneficial in the long run.
That's violence prevention program.
I'm nervous.
That's okay. I got you.
And we hope that we can do this again.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate
Oh,
your
no problem.
partnership.
Glad to
Thank
have you.
you.
All righty.
So what we're going to do with the bears is provide them to children that have been involved in traumatic events, such as domestic violence, car crashes, any other types of things that may affect a child. It's really a beneficial program for us, and just provides these kids a way to help transition back into a more normal life. And we'd just like to thank the Big Four for their generous donation. It was well over 100 bears. Again, thank you very much, sir.
All righty.
Next up is Emergency Manager Director August Vernon.
Good morning. I'm August Vernon, the Director of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Office of Emergency Management. And this feels a little bit like deja vu, because at last month's conference, we were talking about a hurricane, so we're in that position again. I do have some other guest speakers that are going to talk about the Business 40 closure, which I know is on everyone's mind. But first, I do want to take a minute to talk about Hurricane Michael. I know that I will sound a little bit like a broken record with some of the information I'm going to share, but we do want the public to take the storm seriously, and we want them to be aware of what's going on. I think one important note to remember is we could actually see more rain from this event than we did from Hurricane Florence. But again, this storm is moving a whole lot faster than the last storm was, which again is unique for several different reasons. But again, with the hurricane, we just don't know. We have a lot of big events planned this weekend in Forsyth County, and we hope to have clear blue skies for those. So what have we been doing about the storm that's rapidly approaching, that made landfall this morning? For the past few days, we have been monitoring Hurricane Michael and have been in communication with our local city, county, and state partners, some of who are in the room with us today. We are in daily contact with the National Weather Service and the North Carolina Division of Emergency Management. And they started activating as of yesterday, and we will start our daily conference calls with them probably this afternoon. And we've also started communicating with our 50-plus local agencies and partners about the storm and their preparation efforts. Similar to Hurricane Florence, while our local officials are ramping up for the storms and the storm impact that we may or may not see here in Winston-Salem Forsyth County, we're also preparing those resources for any requests for help that we may get from the impacted counties in the coastal areas or other parts of the states. And that's just a very normal way how we do business. I will say, as of this morning, the rain bands associated with Michael will impact the area starting tomorrow and tomorrow night, and the latest tracks are reporting anywhere from 3 to 6 inches can be expected. This rainfall could result in flash flooding, particularly in low-lying and poor drainage areas. We also could see some limited power outages, but again, we just don't really know. We do want to remind the public to stay informed by monitoring the storm and monitoring your local news. And please take the storm seriously and remain vigilant. I've already heard comments that this could be like another thunderstorm, and it possibly could be, but we just don't know. We've said it before and we'll say it again, please avoid any floodwaters. It is never safe to walk or drive through any floodwaters. Only 6 inches of water can knock a person off their feet, and just 12 inches of water can pick up a vehicle and move it. So again, we just want the public to be aware of that. And we do know we have areas that could possibly flood, especially with the volume of water we could see very rapidly. Even if the storm impact is minimal, which is what we hope for, please use caution after the storm passes. It's important to remember that the majority of injuries and fatalities related to any type of tropical weather, hurricane, happen after the storm. After the storm has passed, everyone goes outside and there's flood water, down power lines, accidents, and those type of situations. So please be safe. So as always, we want to encourage the public to prepare for these storms and any other type of storm events we could face. For additional information on storm preparedness, please visit readyforsyth.org or facebook.com/readyforsyth. Does anybody have any questions about the storm before we move on to our guest speakers? All right, again, in reference to the Business 40 closure that we know is looming on the horizon, we've got two very knowledgeable speakers who can talk about that and the updates. So please let me invite our two guest speakers from North Carolina DOT, Resident Engineer Mazak Tucker and Public Information Officer Greta Lynn.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. As Mr. Vernon had stated, my name's Mazak Tucker. I'm the resident engineer for the Department of Transportation over the Business 40 Improvement Project. And I'm just going to I got a PowerPoint presentation to kind of give you a brief update on where we're at and where we're headed. So in today's presentation, I'm going to kind of go over the contractor, the project timeline, review of the construction segments and phasing, and then any construction updates as far as where we're at, and then any mitigation strategies as far as incident management, traffic program, or transit programs and other mobility options, and then some outreach and communication. So this is a design build contract. It was awarded to Flatiron Constructors and Blight Development as a joint venture where they put together a team of certain contractors with a designer, being HDR, to bid on the team, and it was awarded to them. The contract's rebuilding 1.2 mile section of Business 40 from basically just west of Peters Creek Parkway to just east of US 52. The project came in at $99.2 million. That number is rapidly growing. Of course, you know, we negotiated a supplemental agreement with the contractor to accelerate the project and offer incentives to deliver it early. If you remember, the project originally was scheduled to be completed in 24 months for the closure. We selected this team of contractors to do this project in 21 months. And that was their proposal, and that was part of the reason why we awarded it to them. And then after some negotiations and some additional acceleration monies, we were able to get that closure period down to 17 months with incentives to complete it even sooner than that. Part of the design, because we were reducing the access, we were able to increase the speed, you know, by widening the facility, adding wider shoulders, and lengthening ramps and access. We were able to increase the speed limit from 45 to 55 miles per hour. And then, of course, we're going to rename the facility Salem Parkway in the end. This slide here is basically a timeline. We're fixing to move into step 6 in mid-November, in which we will close Business 40. We had a public meeting yesterday with updates on the project. We'll have another one next week on the 16th. Oops, sorry. This slide here is basically a breakdown of the construction segments. We're currently in segment A, which is the Peters Creek Parkway interchange area. We're widening that section of Peters Creek Parkway to 3 lanes in each direction. We've currently constructed the first phase of the bridge to the west. We've completed that section. We're currently working on the phase of the bridge to the east, as well as the pedestrian culvert that goes underneath Peters Creek Parkway at the ball field. We're also reconstructing the 4th Street Bridge, and this segment here will be completed mid-November for the closure itself. Once we close Business 40, you move into segments B and C. But before I move on to those, I'm going to cover segments D, which is at the top right and kind of the bottom left, which is off-site improvements to MLK and 8th and Academy Street. These are improvements that we're making to mitigate for the increased amount of traffic we anticipate at these locations. We're widening MLK from Trade to Marshall to 2 lanes in each direction, just like the section to the east. And then at Academy Street, we're adding some turn lanes and doing some widening there to improve traffic flow as well. Segments D, those improvements will also be completed by mid-November prior to the closure. And then when we start the closure is when we'll construct segments B and C. I want to point out the closure itself will run from just east of Peters Creek Parkway to just west of US 52. The closure will extend the majority of that time period. The reason why that's broken down into 2 segments, B and C, is primarily for bridge construction. We will construct segment C bridges first, which is Church, Main, and Liberty Street, and the Strawway Bridge. And as part of the contractor was required to maintain one of the one-way pairs in and out of downtown at all times. What I mean by that is we couldn't close Main and Liberty and Cherry and Marshall at the same time. So while we're closing Main and Liberty, we'll keep Cherry and Marshall open. And once we complete Main and Liberty, will start Cherry and Marshall Streets. One thing to point out on here is we did advance, as part of the acceleration, we did advance Broad Street in the schedule. In evaluating this, we looked at it, and having Broad Street and Brookstown closed was going to have a severe impact in that particular area with the ballpark and the Dallas Center located on Brookstown. So we wanted to kind of separate those, and by adding that bridge, starting it early or late in segment A, we would deliver it earlier during the closure, providing an additional route north and south. That work has began. We've demoed the bridge and are currently working on the new indents for the new structure. This slide shows a lot of the off-site improvements that we're doing at various intersections throughout the city. These range from signal timing changes to additional turn lanes, conversion of lanes to turn lanes, various things throughout the city. And these were identified based on a traffic analysis that these improvements were needed to help maintain flow and provide a level of service required. Current and ongoing construction work. Most of this I've touched on. We're currently working on the 2nd phase of the Peters Creek Parkway Bridge and Tunnel under Peters Creek. We're still performing widening operations with pipe and drainage work, curb and sidewalks, all on the Peters Creek Parkway area. We have began the new Broad Street Bridge. We hope to have that completed prior to ball season. And then, we're widening MOK&H currently as we speak. And then, of course, construction is still ongoing at 4th Street. I wanted to kind of talk about detour routes for the bridges and the project. All the detour routes have been finalized, and they are posted on our website at business40nc.com. Both vehicular and pedestrian detour routes are posted on the website. The Business 40 primary detour route's going to be US 52, I-40 to Peters Creek Parkway. And then each individual bridge closure throughout the segment phasing will have its own detour route and pedestrian detour route, which is also posted on the website. One of the key things we thought was important and we've been working on diligently was how do we manage incidents during the closure, because we know by closing Business 40, we're displacing 80,000 vehicles a day. We've estimated that half of that traffic is through traffic, so we're going, at the I-40 splits, we're going to be diverting those to I-40 versus Business 40, but we still gotta manage the other 40,000 vehicles. So one of the things we're doing, we're implementing a quick clearance program. It's a coordinated effort through all the police, EMS, and fire that we move vehicles off the road and keep traffic moving, because with that amount of traffic displaced, it's going to be important that we clear the roadways and facilities quickly. We've added additional message boards to alert drivers. Typical projects, you might see 2-3 message boards out ahead of a detour, or, I expect a number of around 15 to 20 message boards solely for this project. And some of them will be just for project information. So we've hired 2 safety patrol drivers, the IMAP trucks, if you're familiar with those, specifically for this project. They will be patrolling, typically they patrol interstate routes, but they will be patrolling Business 40, US 52, Silas Creek Parkway, and Peters Creek Parkway, along with I-40. Our maintenance folks, a lot of times when we have incidents, whether it's a tractor trailer turned over or some major event where our maintenance folks will have to come out and assist with removal of equipment out of the road or debris, or we got 2 pre-staged areas to where it's going to reduce our response time to get those out of the road as well. And of course, the city has done some improvements to their signal system to where we can basically monitor all these intersections throughout the city to adjust timing as needed and to help traffic flow as we see problems arise throughout the closure. Another thing we've done, we let a contract for additional tow and recovery. Typically when an incident occurs on a highway, law enforcement has to call a rotational tow service, which could be timely in response. What we've done is we've let contracts specific for the project that we have certain towers dedicated for zones. We got 3 zones in the job where they're required to respond in a certain amount of time, as well as there's incentive pay if they clear the incident quickly. So that's one way we're going to help clear incidents more quickly. And of course, we're working on a combined effort with an open roads policy, which is basically promoting efficient traffic incident management procedures and prioritizing the quick clearance. Some of the proposed transit programs, I'm not gonna go into a lot of detail on this. The department's been involved with it, but, it's primarily through WISTA and PART, which is the Winston-Salem, Transit Authority and the Regional Transportation, Authority for Regional Transportation. They received a federal grant in which depending on which agency, they're adding different routes, more buses, park and ride lots. And the whole goal is the more vehicles we can get off the road during peak hour, the less congestion we're gonna experience. And this is just a breakdown of some of the details that each one of those have. This one specifically for WISTA, you can see they've added quite a few routes. They're rehabbing a bunch of buses. And then with PART, they're expanding their routes and services as well. And of course, you know, there's other options. I know a lot of people probably not gonna wanna walk or bike, but one key thing I wanna point out here is when we get down to employers, we all know that peak hours are gonna be congested. You know, we've been doing a lot of these presentations, and we just wanna, as a department, wanna promote and encourage all employers that anything we can do to get, to shift folks out of those peak hours, would be a big benefit, whether it be telecommuting, staggering work hours, you know, flex time, anything that the larger employers and stakeholders can do to help, you know, we encourage that. With that being said, I want to turn it over now to Ms. Greta Lent. She is the Public Relations Officer specific for the Business 40 project. And I'll let her give a little spiel.
Thank you, Mazak. Good morning, I'm Greta Lent. I started with this project August 1st, and I've been learning a lot, and I really appreciate the opportunity to work with our local media folks throughout the Piedmont Triad. They have really been helping us get the message out, and I thank you very much. Our communications plan is designed to try and reach drivers as well as people out who might not be coming into Winston-Salem on a regular basis, but be coming into Winston-Salem to shop, to go to their doctor's office, to go through Winston-Salem en route to some other place. So total, we're trying to reach as many people as we possibly can. This is not just from a marketing standpoint and from a driver standpoint, this is not just a Winston-Salem project. This is a project that affects people coming in from Murphy to Mandio. And so half of our efforts are trying to reach local drivers, local residents. The other half is trying to reach the people who are passing through, such as truck drivers and dispatchers for truck drivers, so that they know that there is some construction going on. We have various partners that we're working with who have been purchasing advertising at various media outlets as well as on social media to get the word out that the road is closing. And we are encouraging folks to plan their own detours, to plan 2 of them, so that in the event that you're trying to get to work one morning and that road is blocked or slow, that you've got an option to go. So those are some of the messages that we're trying to get out. We're sending out a lot of press releases. And again, I appreciate our local media folks for using them. They've been very willing to do that. Right now, I'm looking for current stories to pass along to the local media, but after the road closes, we'll be looking for stories of public interest, stories about the construction, stories to let people know, and these are press releases that go out to local media, and go on our Facebook page and go on our website to let folks know that downtown is open, it's alive, you can go downtown, have fun, you can go to the events. So that's gonna be part of our message too, is to remind people that downtown is open for business. And here is our contact information. My email is at the top along with my phone number. That's a really good way to get in touch with me. We have a Facebook page that's gotten to be very active. Out of close to 5,000 folks that have been on our page, we've only had 2 or 3 complaints about the project. So that everybody else has understood why we're doing it and have been very supportive. And some of the comments coming back on the Facebook page have been very supportive of the project. Our website, business40nc.com, does have downloadable detour routes. And then we are also on Twitter at #biz40nc. Any questions? If not, Mazak?
I don't really have much else. I just want to go to this last slide here. This is our Business 40 team for the project. As you can see, I'm the resident engineer. If you need to contact anybody concerning the project, just call Pat. I'm just kidding. No, you're welcome to call me, email me with any concerns or questions. And then, of course, Greta Lent, our public relations. With that, I'm gonna open it up to if anybody has any questions specifically for the project. I do want to point out we are working on a confirmed date for the actual closure itself. We're trying to pin that down by the end of the week in hopes that we can do something next week to announce that date. Thank you.
Thank you. We are all waiting with bated breath on that date, for sure. Any questions for emergency management or DOT? If not, I'll go ahead and introduce Chief Mail with the Winston-Salem Fire Department.
Good morning. I'm Trey Mayo. I'm the fire chief for the city of Winston-Salem. I'd like to start out this morning with a line of duty death remembrance. And on October 29th, 1956, we lost Assistant Chief John Goforth. We received a box alarm. This was when you still had pool boxes out around the city, particularly in the downtown area. Received a pool box activation at the corner of 14th and English Streets about 5:30 in the afternoon. Upon their arrival, Engine 1 found fire showing from a second floor apartment. Goforth and his driver, that was back when fire chiefs, they still had drivers. I drive my vehicle myself these days. But Chief Goforth, he had a driver so that when he was responding to an incident, he could kind of do preliminary incident command stuff en route. So he and his driver arrived shortly after Engine 1, and Chief Goforth then assumed command of the incident. He positioned himself on an exterior balcony and began making tactical assignments to crews operating in the apartment. Upon completing an assignment, an interior crew withdrew from the apartment and found Chief Goforth lying at the bottom of the stairs leading to the balcony. The cause of death was determined to be a heart attack. If you will, just please join me for a brief moment of silence to remember Assistant Chief John Goforth. Thank you. Our lineup this morning includes, we're going to make 2 commendations to 2 of our outstanding employees. And then Captain Chris Belcher is here from the Fire Department's Safety Training and Special Operations Branch. He's going to talk about our response to eastern North Carolina in the days following Hurricane Florence. And then Fire and Life Safety Educator Sabrina Stowe is here. She's going to talk about Fire Prevention Week and as well as Halloween safety. Our first commendation this morning will go to firefighter Jonathan McComb. And Jonathan, of course, is here with his family. And I'm going to call Mr. and Mrs., well, Mr. Frank and Ms. Becky Wyatt to come up, and they'll tell the story. I'll have Jonathan, if you'll come up and join me right over here. I'm going to let Frank and Becky tell the story, and I'll present the commendation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Mayo. It's a genuine pleasure to be in Winston-Salem this morning. My name is Frank Wyatt. This is my wife, Becky. We lived in High Point forever, retired, and moved to Blowing Rock. The day, June the 7th, began like any other day for us. My wife, Becky, has trigeminal neuralgia. She was scheduled for brain surgery at Wake Forest Health Center at 6:40 on the morning of June the 6th. Okay, June the 7th. I stand corrected. We left home at 4:15 in the morning, thinking we would have an uneventful drive down to Winston-Salem, where she could have her brain surgery at 6:40 in the morning. I hit the Parkway. Becky went to sleep. Down to 421 towards Winston-Salem. Blew through Wilkesboro in the normal way. About 15 miles out of town on 421 near Rhonda, if you know where Rhonda is, in a completely rural area. My left rear blew. I wrestled the car down and pulled it off on the side of the road. There we are at complete darkness, about 5:45, 20 or 30 in the morning. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do? If she misses the surgery, that means a reschedule and maybe another month or two. She had a lot of pain. So my lawyer's mind kicked in. I said, well, what do I do? 1, 2, 3. All right, 1. I called the roadside assistance people, and they said they would be there in an hour or two, maybe 2 hours. That she misses the surgery. Number 2, okay, Uber. I'll call Uber, put Becky in an Uber car and have her delivered to the Wake Forest Medical Center. No Uber in the country. Uber doesn't come in the country. It's a city thing. All right, so what's number 3? I'm thinking this has got to be solved. I'm wondering, dejected, worried. And what happens? I look up in the passenger window, and there is this face of this young man. Kind of bothers me to think about it. It was Jonathan McComb. He had stopped, saw the blinkers on the car, and offered to help. And he looked in and he said, "It looks like to me that you folks could use some help." What a moment. I got out, shook his hand, I looked at his eyes, and I knew this was a kind man, a caring person. I could see it. My job was to read people. If I couldn't read people in 50 years of what I did, then I lost. I said, you can. Would you put my wife in your truck and take her to Winston-Salem? He said, absolutely. And they pulled off, and they were gone. And I'm sitting there in the dark in the car by myself.
So guess what? I hopped in Jonathan's truck, not knowing Jonathan, but I could look at his face and I knew that he was a great guy. So he offered to take me to the Wake Forest Medical Center so I could be on time for my surgery. He was on his way to work at the fire department. I can't tell you, I was a former school teacher. And what I did, I got out my piece of paper and I said, Jonathan, what's your mother and daddy's name? And then I said, are you married? And then I went on like that, trying to get some information. And I was at peace. I talked and talked with Jonathan. He was so easy to talk to. In the meantime, his wife called him, and then I think his father called him. And he took me, it was about 30 miles, straight to the hospital, right where I was to be operated on. I was right on time. He came around the truck, opened the door, gave me a big hug, and wished me well. Well, I walked right on in. I said, Jonathan, you are my angel. You're my good Samaritan. You have done a great deed today, and I'll never forget you, and I won't. And he just said, well, I'm just doing what I thought I should do, but it was more than that. And so after I was operated on, Frank was still dealing with a tire. I finished my operation at 12 o'clock. Frank came in. We got back to Blowing Rock about 2 o'clock. Jonathan called me twice just to check on me. I can't tell you, I haven't seen good deeds like this in a long, long time. And you know what? With all that's going on with murders and domestic violence and so forth, this is a good story. This is a real good story. And I want to commend Jonathan to greater things. I know you will. And I want to thank Chief Trey Mayo. I wrote him a letter, and he called me immediately and thanked me. And I wrote the mayor of Winston-Salem. I wrote the editor of the Winston-Salem Journal. And I called his mother and father. So I think I did all I could. But I want to say to all of you, this is a wonderful, outstanding young man, and I commend him to the fire department of Winston-Salem.
Let's give this boy a hand.
So this certificate of commendation to Jonathan McCone says, you're hereby recognized and applauded for your unselfish act of kindness in assisting your fellow citizen on June 7th. You were on June 2018. And Jonathan, I would say to you, just thank you so much for not only being an outstanding employee, but a wonderful ambassador for the city of Winston-Salem and its fire department. So our next commendation is for Rodney Cooper, who works in the Fire and Life Safety Branch. He is one of our fire inspectors. Rodney, if you'll come up, and I'm also going to call on Chief William Hardy to tell Rodney's story.
I'm not a
You want
chief.
to work for the fire department?
Yeah, I work with.
I said chief, I got fire department on my mind. Coach William Hardy, I apologize.
Hey, how y'all doing this morning? They sprung this on me today, but my name is William Hardy. I'm the head coach of the Winston-Salem Indians 13U football team. On this particular day, we had a football game, and this is one of the. I've been coaching for like 19 years now, and it's one of the worst hits I ever seen on a young man get done to. And it was so emotional for me because I have never seen it before. But with the help of Mr. Cooper and the leadership he had and the diligence of him going so fast to prepare and get into this kid, it was just awesome to see the work that he done, the leadership that he showed, and helped out with this kid. We lost him on the field that day, but with Rodney Cooper's help and him getting everybody in place to do what they're supposed to do, he revived the kid. And now I can say that the kid is doing real well. He's back playing football also again, and I would like to thank him for the awesome job he did for me. It's real personal to me with my kids, and for somebody to do something that serious for me, I really like to thank him and the fire department for having a man like him, such as Mr. Cooper. I really like to say thank you. I really appreciate it.
So I'll say that in a lot of fire departments, when people move out of the operations branch and into fire and life safety like Rodney did, they are allowed to drop their certification. And the decision predates me as a fire chief, but the decision was made here that when you move from operations into another branch of the fire department, that you have to maintain your certification. And, you know, clearly this is a reason why, because you never know when you're going to be in the right place at the right time, like Rodney was. So Rodney, this certificate of commendation, similar to Jonathan says, you are hereby recognized and applauded for your unselfish acts of kindness and assist your fellow citizen on September 8th, 2018. Congratulate you for the good work you did. Thank you for being a great employee. Okay, next up for us will be Captain Chris Belcher from the Safety Training and Special Operations Branch to talk about fire department activities in the eastern part of the state following Hurricane Florence.
Thank you, Chief. Welcome, everybody. As August Vernon talked about earlier, Hurricane Florence, when it all started out, it was predicted to be Category 4 when it hit. As we all saw, it ended up being a Category 1 and decided it didn't want to stick around for a while. That being said, on September the 12th, our team, our water rescue team, stood up at the direction of the state. When this happens, they give us mission orders, and our primary responsibility was for Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. After that, we were released after Chief Mayo and city management decided that we were clear here. We were released back to the state. The state sent our team initially to Lillington. And during this deployment, we were deployed for 13 days. We had 5 multi-day missions, with the first being in Harnett County, where we had multiple victims and animal rescues that we partook in. After that, we were moved to Chatham County, where we also had multiple victim rescues, structure checks, and well-being checks, along with delivering food, water, animal stuff for the pets and the animals to one particular area that essentially was an island. Once we were released from there, the next mission we were sent to Kinston for standby for the eastern branch of the state, and then eventually moved to Wilmington, New Hanover County, where they expected some flooding in several neighborhoods that we got lucky and did not have to do anything there. So, and these are just some of the pictures and stuff that we got. We had a total of 31 victim rescues and 6 animal rescues. We had 2 multi-agency, multi-state operations. One of them involved New Hampshire Task Force, which is the one on the left, and our water rescue team. And then the one on the right is Kinston, where we teamed up with New York Fire Department and PD's task force and our water rescue team. This picture here, I don't know if you can see it real good, but over to the left-hand side of the picture that's essentially the top of a vehicle. There's only a couple inches of the top of that vehicle showing in the water, and there's 2 victims on top of that vehicle that we had to rescue off the top of it. This, I know you've heard them say, turn around, don't drown. This is a prime example. You can't stress it enough. You may be able to see the road where you're at, but once you get out there, this road essentially was washed away out there. That bridge on the right there, we talked to one of the residents when we first got to Chatham County and Pittsburgh area, and the water level is normally 30 feet below that bridge, that train trestle. And then the picture on the far right, which I'm sure some of you have seen, is where 421 was essentially washed out down in New Hanover County. There's just on the right-hand side, the trees and the wind and the damage done to some of the houses and stuff like that. So when they evacuate or give an evacuation order, there's reasons they do that, and you can see that right there. The picture on the left, the 2 helicopters, I don't know how many of you heard from the news about the levee that broke in Kelly, but that night at 10:30 at night in Kinston, there was 3 of these Chinook helicopters, 2 Blackhawks and 2 Coast Guard helicopters that essentially landed and loaded up 6 bus loads of victims that they had to pull from that community in Kelly. This is some of our drone footage. We do utilize a drone to help us check for structures. It just makes things go a lot quicker. This is our team along with the Cary team on the right. We're doing structure checks. This particular house is the one that we pulled 2 victims and 2 animals out of. Then here's some helmet footage and some more drone footage. This one up here in the top left-hand corner is the one in Pittsburgh, where we ended up teaming up with New Hampshire. There were 30 families over there that were essentially on that island that we had to take supplies to, we had to check on, we had to provide some medical treatment with our team medic. And just a couple more pictures. And then our team, when we got back home that Monday evening, we cleaned up, and of course, here we are again getting ready to start checking our stuff. So does anybody have any questions? Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Sabrina Stowe, Fire and Life Safety Educator for the Winston-Salem Fire Department. We are in the middle of Fire Prevention Week, which is nationally recognized, the week that has from Sunday through Saturday with the date of October 9th in it, and that date is going to commemorate the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Here at the Winston-Salem Fire Department, and generally most of the fire departments in the state, we recognize October as Fire Prevention Month. Just wanted to go over a couple things in the national theme for Fire Prevention Week, and these things will be included on our website as well as our Twitter pages as well. The theme for this year is look, listen, and learn, and we just want to kind of reiterate some of the things that we want people to look out for during the month of October. Just kind of want to remind you to look for places that fires could start. Kind of just go through your house and look for things such as frayed wiring, making sure you're not overloading outlets, turning your pot handles inward, and the various things that we have listed here. And we talk about these things all the time, and we'll, reiterate these as much as we can. Getting into our cooler season now that the fall season finally is here, just want to kind of remind people about space heaters and that type of thing, and making sure that you're keeping those at least 3 feet away from anything that can burn. The second word of that theme, listen. Listen for the sound of smoke alarms. We're always preaching about smoke alarms, and we will continue to do that. Want to make sure that everyone knows and everyone has smoke alarms in their home. Know what that sounds like. You want to make sure that you're testing those every month to make sure that they are working. If you need those, we do still have those available. We still have our smoke alarm program. We will provide smoke alarms and the installation of those smoke alarms to anyone inside the Winston-Salem city limits who needs those. Make sure we know how to test them. When our guys come out to install the smoke alarms, they're also going to make sure that you know how to test the smoke alarms. They'll test those with you while they're there. They will also do a courtesy home evaluation for any type of fire hazards or life safety hazard that you may have in your home, and they will address those issues and talk to you about how to resolve those. Also, they're going to make sure you know where those smoke alarms are to go. Those need to be inside of every bedroom or any area where someone sleeps. Also, there needs to be at least one outside of the sleeping area and then one on every level of your home, including your basement. Smoke alarms have expiration dates. They don't last forever. Every 10 years, those need to be replaced. Those would include ones that are hardwired into your home system that are battery operated as well. So you want to make sure that you're replacing those, and definitely contact us if you need assistance with that. The last word of the theme is learn. Learn what to do. You want to make sure that you're prepared for situations. Make a fire escape plan is one of the ones that we want to point out. You want to make sure that you know how to get out of a room, have at least 2 ways of escape from that room. Good idea to go ahead and map out that escape plan. Not only for yourself, but for other people that may be visiting your home. If you have young children, if you have people sleeping over, if you have out-of-town guests, you want to make sure that that escape plan is visible and that everyone in that home is aware of that plan. That escape plan should also include where you're going to meet outside of the home once everyone is out. You need to reiterate that once you're outside of the home, that no one should go back in. And you want to practice that escape plan at least twice a year. Just talked about knowing the 2 ways out of every room. Another one we probably not mentioned is a good idea, making sure that you have quick release devices on your window. You want to make sure that you don't have bars and that type of thing that will prevent you from getting out, and that also can prevent firefighters from getting in if that is a place where they need to enter the home. So you want to kind of take this time to think about all of the things in your planning so that in the event of an emergency, you're not trying to figure that out. Reminding everyone that smoke is poisonous. You want to make sure that if you are in a fire type event, you want to remember that smoke rises. You want to get to as low as to the floor as you can to possibly escape the poisonous smoke. You want to crawl your way to safety. And again, we talked about getting out and staying out, making sure you meet at your meeting place and you're calling 911 immediately. Other thing we want to talk about this month is Halloween safety. Just reminding people it's such a big event or big holiday, and it's increasingly getting more and more popular. So we want to make sure that everyone is just being mindful of the decorations that you're using. If you're using anything that's going to create a flame or anything that's going to be creating heat, that you want to make sure that those decorations are clear for exiting your homes or buildings, wherever you're gonna have these decorations, and making sure you're not blocking your way of egress. Using flashlights, make sure you're using battery-operated flashlights or candles, and stay away from things that are gonna be flammable. Does anyone have any questions for us, or anything that we've discussed with the fire department? If not, I'm gonna ask Police Chief Katrina Thompson to come back up and close us out. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, this will conclude the October 2018 Public Safety News Conference. We again thank you for being here. We want to remind the media that if you can stand by, we will have a short follow-on, as mentioned earlier. Thank you.